last we left him, Buddy Holly had just seen on an online message board a picture of the man who had once attacked him.
Buddy Holly hired a private detective named Ezra Stoneman to investigate the true identity of Dark Knight Sabu 666, the man he felt confident was responsible for beating him in the head with a piece of metal pipe years earlier, and leaving him unconscious in a snowy field, saving his life but permanently disabling him. Buddy Holly didn't know what he would do if he found the man. He didn't know whether he should thank him for saving his life or hit him in the head with a piece of metal pipe, but he knew he had a lot of questions for him. Ezra claimed to have tracked the man to a location in Thailand, but he told Buddy Holly that he would need more money in order to flush him out. But before Buddy Holly agreed to pay him, he learned that Ezra Stoneman was actually a con artist and a book editor who had lied about finding the elusive Skullcracker, and he had actually used all the money Buddy Holly had paid him to fund a cross-country train tour to promote his cousin Tom's new book of poetry, titled An Apple a Day. Of course, when all this was brought to light, Buddy Holly confronted the men. First, he tracked them to a hotel in Chicago where they were staying, having made a stop there along their book tour, which was going quite well for them at the time. In a dank alley a few blocks away, as rain fell from the cold Chicago sky, its heavy patter partially drowning out the distant sounds of sirens and traffic, Buddy Holly purchased a .38 caliber pistol from a gruff and scary man in a trench coat with a twitchy eye who called himself Saul. Just minutes later, inside the hotel, Buddy Holly sat down at the bar and ordered 2 shots of cheap whiskey, which he drank to calm his nerves. He paid cash for the drinks, and when the barman went to get his change, Buddy Holly requested that he bring $1 of it in quarters, which the man was more than happy to do. Buddy Holly put the 4 quarters in his pocket and left the rest of his change on the bar as a tip for the portly bartender. Then he went up to the room where he knew his unsuspecting wrongdoers had been staying. He knew they were out at a book reading, and he knew that they would be returning soon. He wore gloves so as not to leave any fingerprints. At 3:37 in the afternoon, Buddy Holly entered the room while the cleaning lady was scrubbing the bathtub, taking care not to let her see him. He hid in the closet until she finished and left. Then he sat down in a chair facing the door while he waited for the men who had lied to him and robbed him of his hard-earned cash. It's not quite time yet. I'll wait all day if I have to. And come all this way for nothing. Before long, the door unlocked and the men walked in, laughing. They were drunk. With the lights off, they didn't see Buddy Holly at first, but he cleared his throat loudly and flicked on a lamp. Hello, Ezra. Tom. I've been waiting for you. The men were shocked and surprised to see Buddy Holly sitting there. Deers in headlights. They didn't know what to say. Of course, Buddy Holly had to kill them in retaliation for what they had done. He couldn't just let them get away with it. He shot both men in the back of the head while they begged. He shot both men in the back of the head while they begged for their lives. Then he placed the 4 quarters he'd received from the barman over the cold, dead, lying eyes of the men he'd just killed. Not murder, justifiable homicide. Not vengeance, justice. A quarter per eye, facing up, and whose face was on the quarters that Buddy Holly took care to ensure were all facing upward from each of the 4 eyes? The face of George Washington, of course, could not tell a lie. Lie no more. Steal no more. Poetic justice for Tom the poet, and Ezra, the liar, the thief, the con man. Having lost trust in the private detective industry, Buddy Holly decided to conduct his own investigation instead. The post by Dark Knight Sabu 666 turned out to be a dead end, but it was enough of a spark to keep Buddy Holly looking for more clues. In July of 2009, he traveled by train to Clear Lake, Iowa. He visited the memorial at the site of the plane crash where fellow musicians Richie Valens and the Big Fat Bopper had been tragically killed. He left some flowers, and then he traveled to nearby Mason City, where decades earlier he'd been left unconscious in a snowy cornfield. At the time of the incident, a thorough investigation had been conducted, but nothing noteworthy had been found. It was as if the perpetrator had simply vanished into thin air. An interview with the owner of the farm had revealed that the man's young son had noticed a strange-looking machine hidden in the corn around the time of the incident, but by the time police looked into it, there was nothing to be found. But then, not 20 minutes after Buddy Holly arrived at the scene in 2009, he discovered a strange machine hidden under a tarp in an old shed about 100 yards from where he'd been found unconscious so many years earlier. From what he could tell, it seemed to match the description of the machine given by the farmer's boy. But there's no way it could have been sitting there for all those years. Surely someone would have noticed it. The police would have found it when they did their search, and anyway, despite a few cobwebs, it just looked too new, like it couldn't have been there for more than 4 or 5 years. Buddy Holly looked around the shed, and he found an old receipt from Home Depot from 2004, as well as a train ticket from Los Angeles, as well as
a train ticket from Los Angeles,
and an airline ticket from Tokyo to LA. And then he noticed the name on the plane ticket. Saburo Ishigami, of course! All the pieces came together all at once. Saburo Ishigami was Dark Knight's Avenue 666. All of a sudden, everything made sense. Buddy Holly knew exactly what had happened.